We started with packaging, and packaging is important to the FMCG and the F&B world. It's not just about protecting and safety of food. It's not just about appealing to consumer. It's not just only about safety. It's also become a sustainability and an innovation product. With that being said, I'm going to start addressing a question to all of my panelists here. And we started with interesting data about packaging. Is it today considered sustainable, or do we have a lot to do? Milana?
So thank you for raising the topic, and I think it's very important to discuss that today in order to create solutions for tomorrow. What we see that there are certain strides and initiatives implemented in the packaging. However, it's a long journey ahead for all of us. Why this is important today is primarily three reasons. There is a raising consumer voice globally and also in UAE. We've seen that 80% of population is already looking for sustainable options and food that is better usable and disposable. Secondly, there is a regulatory landscape that is changing. We see it in the initiatives like the ban on the single-use plastic. We see it in the net zero strategy, in the food waste strategy that is to be implemented by 2030. And that is something that we believe will continue to evolve and develop. And thirdly, for us in Ain Farms Group, it is our internal moral compass. We believe that the companies must go beyond profitability only and take a more ethical and responsible role on SEAM. All that being said, it means that packaging is making strides, however, long journey and a challenge that we will not solve overnight. However, we must start today in order to create solutions for tomorrow.
Yeah. Ben?
Thank you, Mathilda. And yeah, I can completely agree with Milana, all the points that you just mentioned. I'd like to just add from a converting standpoint when it comes to packaging as a sustainable product. So yes, there's quite a bit of innovation, there's quite a bit of work that's been done to make packaging more sustainable in terms of making it lightweight, in terms of making it compostable or recyclable. So all that is being quite a bit of work is already going on in the downstream side, I would say, quite a lot. And brand owners are really walking their talk when it comes to achieving their carbon neutral targets for 2030, 2028. They're really working towards that, although there are quite a lot of challenges, but still that's definitely happening. But what I would say is like we are in a journey now, right? So we are all on a journey, but this destination is quite a bit to cover, but the action is already happening, and together all the stakeholders, brand owners, converters, machine manufacturers, technology providers, recyclers, everybody is playing their part. Coming together and really working together is happening, but it has to happen even more aggressively, or rather much more in detail to make sure that it's more viable. That's the work that's happening as we speak. So yeah, to answer your question, yes, sustainability is really happening, and in this country, especially in the Emirates, we see a lot of work happening, which is really commendable.
Adnan, you guys do.
Yeah, thank you, Mathilda. A very good afternoon to all of you. Thank you for staying back this late in the day. My name is Adnan Zubairi. I am the partner at Zubairi Packaging, one of the local manufacturers for packaging products. To address your question of what are we on the sustainability factor when it comes to packaging, have we arrived there yet? No. Are we in the right direction? Yes. We've been in the UAE for the past 17 years, and from where we started to where we are now as a packaging manufacturer, there has been a huge change in the way packaging is perceived. There's a lot of awareness from the producers, from the agencies, the brands, as well as the consumers. So I think all of us are in the right direction towards sustainability in packaging, but certainly I believe there's a lot more that we need to do collectively.
Thank you all. Benjamin, since we're talking about sustainable packaging, how can we explain it and simplify it? Because a lot of people tend to use sustainability in its broad terms, right? And what do you think are the main challenges that the industry face to shift towards sustainable packaging?
Very good question, Mathilda. I think sustainability is part of the complete value chain, whether it's food or beverage or luxury or non-food packaging and all the areas of products that have been produced and needs packaging, sustainability is becoming, it's no more a choice. It's definitely, it's imperative. Everybody has to have that. When coming to your point of sustainability, we need to make sure there's a closed loop when it comes to sustainability. Right from the design of the product, you have to make sure that the product is designed for circularity, and it has to be produced with all the material science and all the product structure, meeting the requirements of the product that you're packing. In this case, when it comes to food and beverage, we have to make sure a lot of quality standards in terms of shelf life, in terms of migration properties, barrier properties, all of that are met to make sure that the product meets those requirements without compromising on the sustainable credentials, right? That's on one side. So moving forward, after the product is produced, we have to make sure it's also on the shelf with a very good shelf impact, right? So as a publication, Packaging EMEA, that's what we do. So we engage with all these stakeholders, brand owners and converters and machine manufacturers. We find so many challenging areas where they come out with solutions to make sure that it meets the requirement. So on the shelves, the product is accepted by the consumer, and then finally when it's finished, and when it comes to post-consumer, that's the main part when it comes to collecting and sorting and bringing it back in the value chain. So to close the whole loop, it has to be designed and brought back. The life cycle analysis, the whole thing to put together is the biggest challenge which people are working towards in this country and across the region. Work has really started in an active way. And to sum it all, I think what needs to do is collaboration. And that's what is happening, which I'm very happy to see.
Thank you. Milana, we know that it's an ecosystem that is changing at a very fast pace. So where does innovation sit in the sustainability world? How can innovation help with sustainability?
Well, I believe in vicinity in examples in Europe who has developed EU regulation much more practically, more advanced than we are yet to, just embarking on the journey. There is no one solution that fits all. So before we talk about radical change in the packaging, we have to account that there is this massive fear of the industry undertaking that risk. So before we go into radical changes, we have to take a phased approach, which primarily relies on reduction, reduction, reduction. So we can collectively reach to a point that us as manufacturers, regulatory landscape development, reach to a point that we can educate the consumer of the change that has happened. Secondly, there are certain initiatives in reduction that we are already undertaking. So it is about testing what works best in terms of the overall ROI, consumer acceptance, because Ben rightly mentioned, consumer will not accept the product if it is not delivering overall product quality, freshness, visually look and appealing. Certain initiatives like RPET that we are testing, for example, in egg trays, that has become a big topic in the net zero strategy. Then we can look at introducing more paper. However, paper is a challenge. As we introduce more paper, we cut more trees. So it has to be a balance between the two. And thirdly, it is about reducing the multi-use materials to less components or singular materials. In practicality, for example, we have had certain packaging 3 or 4 layers. Now it goes to reduction to a single-use layer, which significantly reduces the ecological footprint and reduces the operational handling logistics. Thirdly, it is developing the overall innovation lies in finding intelligent solutions to do things, doing all things in a new way. So for us, it's all about developing local capability, working with local manufacturers, sourcing, producing for the finished product, so it doesn't impact the cost and it doesn't burden the consumer on their pockets.
Thank you, Milana. Adnan, from a manufacturer of packaging, is there how do you see innovation impacting sustainable packaging?
I think the biggest innovations currently that are happening purely from a manufacturing standpoint revolve around the recyclability and also how we can use, as Milana was saying, a single grade of single family or single origin of product to make the packaging. That way, recyclability becomes efficient. Since earlier in the day, there used to be a composite of different materials, so you will not be able to efficiently recycle them. But these days, there's a lot of adoption from the brands, like Unilever has committed to make 100% of their packaging recyclable. So that's one of the biggest drivers. And also innovations like chemical recycling, for example, especially food-grade chemical recycling. That's also another innovation that's driving sustainability these days. Plus the commitment from the brands, I think that's also another big catalyst that drives this.
We hear among the circles about intelligent packaging. We kept on hearing it throughout the day today. But Benjamin, do you think intelligent packaging has any impact on sustainable packaging, and what is the role that it plays in that?
Absolutely. I agree with you on that because sustainability and intelligent packaging, they work hand in hand. I feel intelligent packaging is an enabler for sustainability when it comes to the simple QR codes that we find, which has the details of the product, right from chain of custody to all the data that's required, that's part of the product that you're packing. These are the simple ones. The advanced ones could be sensory advances in terms of temperature, in terms of shelf life extension. The consumer can get a lot of information through an intelligent packaging structure that's been formed. So I think instead of keeping it as a standalone as intelligent packaging, I feel sustainability packaging is really getting a lot as an enabler from intelligent packaging, and that's growing. And moving into the production space, we see intelligent packaging also helps quite a bit to make sure how you measure and make sure that it gives you a lot of information to make sure you don't have any loss in terms of material waste. It gives a lot of data where you can enhance your productivity, and it works very closely as an enabler for sustainability. That way it really helps in the carbon footprint. Not directly, but indirectly it helps a lot, I would say.
If I can just add on intelligent packaging, because sometimes we talk about intelligent packaging only about QR codes and sensory panels and traceability of information, but we do forget the functional side of the packaging. So talking about intelligent packaging, that also means it still needs to remain ergonomically usable for the consumer. It needs to retain formats consumer want in terms of daily consumption, especially in our fresh dairy product categories. For example, milk or juice, it has to retain that look and feel that they are used to it. So that's why sometimes we cannot use so many materials that are maybe made from compost, but consumer will never accept it because they just don't look pretty. So there has to be a way to grow toward the capability to improve upon the visual delivery, but still have that non-toxic usability and disposable functionality of the material.
You brought up a very important topic, which is about packaging and its use, right? So there's been one of the, what we hear is that most sustainable materials do not provide the protection and the quality or the preservation or shelf life required for the F&B sector. And that can cause a damage or that could cause food waste. How would you address this issue? Benjamin, would you like to have a go at this?
Want me to take that? Certainly, that's a fantastic question. When it comes to material science and packaging, it's very, very important, especially for the food industry, food and beverage industry. You need to produce a product which is innovative, otherwise it's not going to be accepted by the consumer. It should be something standing out on the shelf. That's number one, most important thing, which is the material innovation. Okay, when it comes to the shelf impact, that's on one side. But the most important thing when it comes to food packaging is you have to make sure, like I said earlier, it has to have all the credentials of making sure the food that you're packing is safe. It's having a longer shelf life because that's very important when it comes to food. And number three, the most important thing is it also has to make sure that it's commercially viable. You can have a very good product which is having a good shelf impact. You can also have a product which is having a long shelf life, but if the consumer doesn't like to pay that extra money for that, there's no sense. So I feel commercial viability is a very key factor when it comes to material innovation. Along with that, you also have to design it intelligently to make sure the consumer gets all the information, like we discussed about intelligent packaging, all those elements. Today's consumer, we saw some examples outside of GS1 where the product is we can get all the information about the product. So that's a very good example where it kind of has a very good shelf impact. It's got a good sustainable material. At the same time, it's also intelligent. So I think it's a combination of all these things is very important. Yeah.
So we talk about cycles in general, and we talked about shelf life, and that leads me to the next question, which is the end-of-life challenge. Adnan, we know that the effectiveness of sustainable packaging is very much dependent on the infrastructure, on the availability of local recycling and composting infrastructure. Do we have enough of these in the UAE and in the region? And how would you address it as a business, or how do you actually address it today as a business?
So I think this is really important as this question hits home in the UAE. You're asking about the specific infrastructure availability. There are different emirates here, and I think recently the EPR, the Extended Producer Responsibility, has been mandated by Abu Dhabi in collaboration with Tadweer, the recycling processing company of Abu Dhabi. And then we see BIA from Sharjah. They have a massive infrastructure where they are converting the waste to energy. And their commitment is to make up to 90% of waste converted into energy. Even in Dubai, we have companies like FARS who are also working on converting the waste to energy. So the infrastructure in the current times is really good, but given the Emirates' way of functioning, they are constantly evolving and trying to be the leaders globally. So I've read about commitment from different Emirates up to the tune of $4 or $5 billion towards enhancing the existing infrastructure. So I think 2030 is the timeline they have set up for building and getting at par with all of these. So I think we're looking at good times ahead. As a manufacturer, to add to your second part of the question, what do we do? About 50% of the capacity that we produce, we have built in-house recycling facilities where we recycle up to 50% of our total installed capacity. So we, on our part, as a manufacturer, are committed to enhancing this further and recycle as much as local waste that we can.
You've started your own recycling facilities, and you kind of recycle 50% of the plastic that you produce.
Yes, that's correct. But that's mechanical recycling. I think what is required in the UAE is, I believe, to date, I don't see major players doing the chemical recycling. But that's the innovative practice that has been in place in Europe, in certain parts of North America as well. So I think it's not going to be very long the day when we start seeing some food-grade chemical manufacturers come up locally to address that.
We're having a conversation with Benjamin earlier, and he was always saying that there's always two ways to get things done, a carrot or a stick. And so usually the stick, which is putting rules, putting regulations that kind of enforce a certain behavioral change, is always welcome. On that note, and a lot of the industry brands have been working with a lot of local associations on what we call the EPR, the Extended Producer Responsibility. And there is a pilot EPR that has been launched in UAE. How can regulation make sustainable packaging mainstream?
You want me to take that? Okay, thank you. I'm so proud to see what's happening in the UAE when it comes to APR, Extended Producer Responsibility. We have Sarah Jackson sitting here from CPA. She has been driving this from CPA standpoint, and so many other stakeholders together. They've done a wonderful job, I would say, together in bringing this pilot project together. And it's something which we all are looking forward to see really action finally happening. I wouldn't say finally, in a very fast pace they've done this. CPA was formed just a couple of years back, and now within these 2 years they've done so much to bring the whole industry together. Many stakeholders have come together and they're working towards this. And I think it's something which we all have to support as the food industry. All of you as brands and manufacturers should also have an important role in this, because EPR is practical. This happened in North America, in Europe, and many other mature markets. EPR is a practical solution which can be implemented and taken into effect, and we can practice that, all of us as brands and converters, we can do that. And we are looking forward to see how the numbers and all the report and data that comes in. So let's work towards that. I think it's not going to be easy. Let me say that it's not going to be easy. It's easier said than done. But I think if all of us play our part, we all have a part. As a manufacturer, as a brand owner, he's got a part to play. And likewise, when it comes to designing a product for recycling, he has to make sure that each product a brand owner comes out in the future is 100% ready for recycling or compostable or whatever, sustainable. So that is imperative for a brand owner to take up. And they are working on it. Likewise, converters, they are working. They have the best technologies in place now when it comes to, as Adnan was mentioning, about mono-material in flexible packaging. A lot of converters are investing in millions of dollars worth of machines which can come out with a mono-material, let's say PE, polyethylene as a product. You can produce a product which is 100% collected and recycled, just like PET, how you can easily make a PET as a rPET, because it's a single family. Likewise, PE, polyethylene also can be done using machine direction orientation, MDO-PE. We can do that. So machine manufacturers and converters are doing their part, and brands are doing their part. And I should really commend a few handful of recyclers in this country who are really taking it, much more than what is expected from them. They are really waiting for feedstock, for more material to come for recycling. I think everybody's playing their part, and the government, MOCA, and everybody, CPA in particular, they're all work. I think we all have to join hands together, and this EPR will really be a reality in the UAE.
But I want to go back to the mainstream. How can you make it mainstream? What are the pillars, or what are the given that needs to be in place to actually, for EPR to become mainstream? So if you look at the pillars, we talk about collection, we talk about recycling, we talk about the source itself. So what do you think is required to make it mainstream?
I take that. Okay. When it comes to EPR, there are two important elements. Okay, so one is enabling it and making sure that you're closing the loop and making sure the product is coming back as a from the value chain to be reused, and we're producing that. At the same time, it has to be commercially viable. Today we are talking about, let's not go into the numbers, but there's quite a bit of gap between a recycled product, which is much expensive as compared to a virgin material. It's lopsided as we speak now. There should be some kind of a balance. So like I said, when we're discussing outside, sustainability cannot be sustainable unless it's commercially sustainable. It has to be, a commercial viability should be there for sustainable product. So as a consumer, let me take an example. Let's consider this is a rPET bottle, and this is a virgin PET bottle. This is glass, I know, but I'm just giving an example. This is PET and this is rPET. So as a consumer, as a PET product, when I see on the shelf, it's clear, crystal clear. I can see the water. It attracts me, and it gives every elements that I need. And I mean, as a consumer, I like to pick it up. But here is the rPET, which is equally good, no doubt. The label is equally good, but it's not as transparent as this because it's not a virgin material. It's got some, dark, little bit of tint onto it. So I get a doubt. But if it is FDA approved, and if it is having a regulation from the government, which they're working now, and people will have no option but to pick this up because it's equally good. People have a phobia because they don't know that rPET is food grade now. So once people know this, they will definitely take this. But going back to the question of commercial viability, we have to make sure that we support the industry to make sure that recycled material or sustainable material is commercially viable for the brand owner and for the converter and manufacturer. And we cannot pass this on to the consumer because consumer is not going to pay you anything extra for something which is sustainable. They are ready to pay a very small amount if it's a premium product because they're educated, no doubt. But we have to make sure that the whole value chain closes and make sure that it is commercially viable.
If I may just further add to what Ben was mentioning about the rPET, I've seen that Ain has already adapted to making rPET water bottles in addition to the regular ones. maybe they should consider moving fully to rPET. Anyway, so what he was saying about having a commercial viability for the recycled materials, I think it comes from building more infrastructure towards the availability of good quality of recycled materials. So for example, tomorrow if Ain wants to transition all their PET bottles to recycle, I doubt if they will be able to get that much available raw material, good quality of rPET, which is food grade. So I think, yeah, a lot of emphasis can be done towards building that local infrastructure so that we're not dependent on procuring high quality of recycled materials.
I agree. I fully agree with you on this. Yes, it's very important to make sure that feedstock availability is very, very important when it comes to rPET. And work is in progress. I would say it's like I said in the beginning, it's still a challenge. I think it's improving, and there are many recyclers coming in to make sure that there's improvement in the feedstock. Yeah,
That's right.
Can I just add on this? I think you fired us up with this question because it raises a lot of discussion. So I think it's a part of a more broader discussion, because packaging and responsible production schemes and recycling, it's only one piece of a puzzle. Packaging itself and the overall end cycle management lies as a part of a broader agenda of sustainability, which also touches upon the overall resources, usability, and input material. Primarily for us in manufacturing food, it is about water and electricity. So energy is key for sustainability. So we need to think of ways how to improve upon that part. Because today it is an investment in solar panels, water recycling, similar biomanure, similar sources. However, it's a long-term investment that will become the key of the tomorrow, which means that we will be able to reduce proportionally the cost we invest towards sustainability by using resources that are now a byproduct or a waste. And that will help us carry some of the cost related to sustainability. And the cost of sustainability is maybe the primary reason why people don't pay much attention to responsibility and production schemes. So it's about the overall supply chain matrix that needs to happen, rethinking the value and chain.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I'm going to use the term consumer behavior, but I'm going to address it from two different angles. Adnan, when I talk to you consumer, you also think about your business, the businesses that are your consumers. Milana, when I tell you consumer, you think about them, consumer themselves. So the question is one, but I think I need your help in addressing it from two angles, from actually the consumer as in the businesses that purchase the packaging material, and consumer from the actual end consumer to which we sell the product to. So do you think consumers care about sustainable packaging?
Can I go first? I think they do care, but they are not ready to pay the cost of it. So we cannot work in isolation without having them in mind. And we should have as our primary responsibility to maintain the cost at similar rate and not to pass that burden on them. For example, taking initiatives in reducing materials for us has left us also without any kind of burden on bottom line. It has improved our operational efficiency, but we are not at the level that we are completely sustainable now, 100%. So we don't know yet what will be the impact on the business. So we need to work smartly by investing in the overall circular matrix, how we can manage cost on one side in order not to increase the cost on the other side. Sustainability should not be a burden, and a consumer should not feel it's a burden, but be more of a proactive player in preserving the environment and the planet. Secondly, there is a lot that needs to happen with the regulatory landscape before we go to consumer, and us as an industry taking a commitment and a mandate to become sustainable, because we cannot expect one company to lead efforts and others to stay in the same area. It has to be a collective effort by the industry that is managed also by a changed regulatory landscape.
You brought up a very important topic, and you said the consumer does not need to feel it. But we realize today that when we talk about the consumer in general, we say that they champion purpose, they champion. So if sustainability is something they champion, or it's a purpose they believe in, do you think they're willing to pay a premium for sustainable packaging?
From my perspective, it should not be a premium on sustainability. Currently, yes, as this scenario, because it is very much outside the industry norm. However, if it becomes a commitment that we will all undertake, it will not be a premium.
So to address your question of should the consumer be paying, or are they willing to pay an extra? Am I too loud? Sorry. So are they willing to pay something extra for sustainability, right? Let's just make it a little attractive. We have a crowd of audience here. Maybe if I can just get a raise of hands on who is willing to pay 5% extra or 10% extra for buying something which is more sustainable. Can I just have a show of hands? So at least half of the people around the room are willing to pay extra. So we have a live example here. But at the same time, I think as a brand or as a manufacturer, it's a risk that we wouldn't want to take. So it's imperative that we are able to deliver the same quality with a more sustainable tangent to that at the same price. So I think this is where if I'm talking from a brand standpoint, this is where the consumer behavior will tilt towards your brand. If I'm having 2 water bottles, the quality and everything remains the same, but one is more sustainable than the other, and I don't have to pay anything extra. I think this in itself is an incentive for me to buy that. So yeah, whoever raised their hands, you don't need to pay an extra for sustainable packaging, but at the same time, when you find something which is more sustainable, I would encourage you to continue doing that.
I just want to add one point to what Adnan just mentioned. That statistics that we see with people, more than half of the all people raising their hands for going for a product that's sustainable, paying that extra value. That is so true because, as packaging MEA, we did a market research last year with another research organization between Saudi Arabia and the UAE. With more than 300 consumers at retail space, and the figures are very astounding, like more than 59% the UAE and 60% in Saudi Arabia, slightly more in Saudi Arabia. They were very well aware that sustainable packaging is we need to invest in that. They were more interested in taking something that's sustainable. But again, coming to the point, are they willing to pay extra? Not everybody right now. Okay, let's honestly agree. Maybe 20, 30%, 40%. Because we all know what is a sustainable packaging, we lifted up our hands. But there's a lot of other people who look at the product and they instantly take something which is a little more commercially attractive. Okay, going back to the practicality of that, I feel when sustainable structures are really developed and there's a good ecosystem, feedstock increases, volumes increase, and I feel the production cost will come down. As the volume increases, the price will have some kind of a balance, I feel so.
So a follow-up, do you think sustainability is a positive element to engage customers on, or is it just a green, there's some people, and I will air quote it here as in greenwashing. Do you really think that that customers want to engage on sustainability as a topic or as a pillar?
Absolutely, yes. We've seen in the survey, I mentioned 80% of UAE consumers are looking for sustainable options. In Europe is already there, much higher. I would say that, it's no longer a choice. It's a mandate we must undertake because resources are scarce. And again, we have to take responsible role for society to make strides and to improve our operations and to reach to a point that we do offer better solutions for tomorrow.
Okay.
Anything to add?
Sorry, I'm lost.
I didn't get that question well. Sorry, there's a bit of a back.
I'm a little
Can you?
lost.
We didn't get that question well. Can you repeat that question?
No, I'm saying, do you think the question was, is it important for consumers, or is it just a brand narrative that consumers don't care about? Would they engage with you on sustainable packaging as a topic, or is it just they assume that this is just a narrative that is irrelevant to them?
Is this for brand owners that you're asking?
From a brand perspective, yes.
From a brand perspective, absolutely, because I think brand owners are the key drivers of this sustainable initiative. In fact, that's where the origin, the product starts from there. They are the real starters of this, and that's why design for recycling becomes so very important. And I think brand owners are driving this with the value stakeholders all put together. I think it's very important that brand owners are initiating this process in the beginning, and we as downstream when it comes to converters, when it comes to machine manufacturers, suppliers. We are all supporting them to make it happen. I think the brand owner is the driver. He's king. I would say the brand owner is the king in this story.
Just to add further on the brand side of you, I think the consumer in today's world is well aware of the sustainability. There's like widespread awareness, and certainly there is a preference, especially when you travel in the Western world. You see even the products on the shelf, they're marked separately if they're made of 100% recycled content. So the brands are positioning that on the forefront as a value proposition. Like how, take an example of sugar-free products or something which is healthy. So in the same lens, even sustainability or recyclability in the packaging is being advertised by brands far and wide. So this certainly is driven by the consumer behavior and preferences. So that goes on to show that there is awareness and there is preference towards something which is more sustainable.
Thank you. I'm going to ask a question to wrap this amazing panel discussion. I wish we had more time, but we can continue once we're done. We've heard about the future, and in previous sessions, we're talking even on AI from a future perspective, but I'm going to more focus on sustainable packaging. Should we be confident about sustainable packaging? And let's put a time frame to it. 5 years from today, how do you foresee sustainable packaging in this region?
I definitely believe we should be confident because UAE has its own way of doing things. We take the best global practices, but we twist them even in a better way locally. And the change is real and it is happening. We see it from consumer point of view, we see it from